there and welcome to my channel and to another time-lapse painting. Today I'm working in acrylic paint and I'm painting a wolf on canvas. As you can see, my canvas is slightly damaged, but I think at the end you don't really see that anymore, so just as well I didn't waste the canvas and used it anyway. So first of all, I'm sketching out my wolf. This is not necessarily the way I would always go about an acrylic painting. I was too lazy to do my sketch on a separate piece of paper and then to transfer it onto the canvas, which would have been the cleaner way of doing things. I just sketched right onto the canvas. So to save time, it can cause a bit of a problem when you start painting. Then it's hard to cover up the graphite lines and they can smudge and you have unnecessary graphite on there and it's hard to erase, but yeah, still worked out okay. And here you see me painting in the background. I go over the background several times because I just didn't like the way it was turning out, and it's not terribly inspiring in the end. It's just turns out to be kind of a blurry background, nothing really to be seen there. In my reference photo you have some rocks in the background, but I just didn't manage to get the look I wanted, so it's all just swishes of paint in the background. Nice dark background because it's going to be a light wolf, bright white wolf. Anyway, so it took me a good while to paint this. I painted it on and off over a couple of weeks, and all in all I think were 4.5 hours of video footage, so that definitely took me longer than my average watercolor painting, which I will finish within, well, half an hour to maybe at the most 2 hours, normally speaking. Yeah, but this was a more detailed piece of work, and acrylic landscape mightn't take quite as long. It depends, and I enjoyed taking my time with this and adding the detail. This is my second wolf acrylic painting. I painted one in, what was it, 2017, and yeah, I just wanted to see if my skills had improved, and I just took a little bit more time for this and just added more detail, worked with a smaller brush. The original wolf I have hanging up over my bed, so I'm still happy with that one as well. So I'm just blocking in the color here. I'm using a mixture of brown and blue and white to create a grey, and then I decided I was going to go ahead and use some black as well, so I have black portions in there as well because I just couldn't get the colour dark enough. And yeah, you might notice my setting changing a little bit, the angle of the camera changing a little bit throughout the painting process, as I did this in several sittings. I'm still using a fairly large brush, and you can see it creates kind of nice soft strokes, but I'm going to have to go in with a smaller brush further into the painting to really make it look more realistic. The paint did stay wet for a decent amount of time, giving me kind of a nice soft blended look most of the time. The reference photo I got off Pixabay, I think. see me going over the same areas again and again, trying to add a bit more contrast. I was getting a bit frustrated at that stage because it just wasn't really turning out the way I had envisioned it, and that's when I switched to the smaller brush. And this is a tiny little brush, and with that I could do the really nice small hair strokes, and it quickly started becoming more realistic in my mind. This again is a relatively long video. I think it's around 13 minutes. So I hope that's okay, but otherwise it would have just looked way too hectic if I had sped it up even more. I think I sped it up around 20 times. The hair in the face of the wolf is a lot shorter. That's why the small brush was important for that. And around the neck and the torso, it's just nice and long and fluffy. So that's why the bigger brush was good for that. Working on the nose here. Around the tip of the nose I used a dotty motion. Okay, I painted in the eyes off camera seemingly. They look very creepy at the moment, but I'm going to tone them down and add the pupil, and then it will look more normal. Make some brown and white to the yellow of the eye. Bit of a highlight over the pupil. Here again, working on the nose, and yeah, like I said, it has a bit of a dotty texture at the top where the highlight is. And now and then I add in a little bit of blue, the highlight areas. It's kind of difficult to film when you're painting on a canvas or painting on the easel, so my head kind of pops in there now and then. Also, just because I think I need a pair of glasses. For the really small details, I just really feel like leaning in, which is a bit problematic when you're filming. I like the bits of brown warm tones in this reference photo. adding in some little strokes going over the side of the wolf into the background. So I'm really just adding little details here and there, some little hairs, trying to refine everything a little bit. Trying to make the wolf look a bit more fluffy. Adding in some more brown, light brown. I think making something look realistic is most of all a question of patience and to just keep going until you get the result you want. Of course, your initial sketch has to have the right proportions, so it can't all be skewered, but otherwise it's just patience and adding detail. I do love working in acrylic paints. I don't do it as much anymore because it's just a lot more complicated to set up in comparison to watercolor, where you can just grab a paintbrush and some water and start painting. But it is a lot easier than watercolors in a way. Perhaps I'll manage to do some more acrylic paintings in the near future. I do have a lot of empty canvases lying around, most of them which I got as a present for my birthday, or past birthdays anyway. Adding the little dots at the around the mouth, and some more fur. Little choppy dotty part there around the neck. And again, trying to create a bit more contrast with some darker areas. All in all, it's a fairly light coloured wolf. I really enjoyed painting this. I do love wolves, and perhaps I'll try and paint some more in future. And I'm fairly pleased with how it turned out, I must say. It certainly looks more realistic than the one I painted years ago. I think, when did I actually paint it? The other one in 2007. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this painting and the video, and if you did, perhaps you could give me a thumbs up and maybe subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.